Russia has launched a big missile and drone attack on Ukraine's capital, Kyiv. Large explosions were reported and at least 9 people have been killed. Well, the latest pictures from Kyiv show that the damage appears to be extensive, with the city's mayor saying that the attack caused several fires and dozens of people were being treated in hospital. It is one of the biggest attacks in recent months. And President Zelensky has cancelled part of his planned trip to South Africa in order to return to Ukraine following these latest airstrikes. Well, they come as President Donald Trump accused Mr. Zelensky of harming peace negotiations after the Ukrainian leader said his country's institution does not allow his government to recognize Crimea as Russian territory. The US is pressing Ukraine to accept a deal that would see Russia's maintain control of most of the territory it occupies, which is highlighted here in red, effectively freezing the conflict along the current lines of control.
I will say that I think Russia is ready, and a lot of people said Russia wanted to go for the whole thing. And I think we have a deal with Russia. We have to get a deal with Zelensky, and I hope that Zelensky, I thought it might be easier to deal with Zelensky. So far it's been harder, but that's okay. It's all right. But I think we have a deal with both. I hope they do it.
Donald Trump there. Well, let's cross over to Kyiv to join my colleague John Donnison. And John, before we talk about those comments from Donald Trump, let's just talk about what Ukraine's Interior Minister is describing as one of the most devastating air attacks against Ukraine for months. Hundreds of missiles and drones being launched by Russia.
Yes, certainly here in Kyiv, we think it's the deadliest attack since last July. You can see behind me, this is a residential neighbourhood about 15 minutes from the centre of Kyiv, where one of the ballistic missiles struck, and all the buildings here have had their windows blown out, the balconies ripped apart, and just to the other side it's been cordoned off. You can see where a whole apartment block has been completely flattened, and that's where we think the 9 people were killed. We've still got the emergency services on the scene going through the rubble. They think there are people possibly still buried, trapped underneath, and a lot of people here obviously incredibly upset. I just spoke to one middle-aged woman who had actually fled her home in the very east of Ukraine, which is now occupied by Russia. She'd come to Kyiv. Her house has now been badly damaged. She said she woke up at 1:30 in the morning, managed to make it into the corridor, but was absolutely terrified.
Yeah, we can see the remnants behind you, that clear-up operation, John. Just in terms of the operation in dealing with trying to get some form of ceasefire agreement, of course, the US is putting a lot of pressure on Ukraine, but we're hearing Ukrainian's foreign minister saying that these deadly strikes on Kyiv show that it is Russia that is maintaining this war.
Yes, he has said that it shows that Russia does not want to pursue peace. And the truth is that the Ukrainians say, look, before we can have any sort of talk about territorial exchanges, a long-term peace, we've got to have a ceasefire. And that just clearly is not happening. Now, you get the sense of real urgency and impatience from Donald Trump, who we heard from earlier. But I think the reality is that on the ground, the two sides remain very far apart, and the kind of compromises that are going to be needed to get some sort of deal, I just don't see that the two sides are ready to make them, particularly the Russians, who do not really be seen to be being asked to make any compromises by the United States.
John, and just in terms of the clear-up operation behind you, of course, we're seeing that ongoing, people absolutely devastated there following these huge strikes overnight against Kyiv. Just in terms of the morale of people there, of course, we know that this war has been grueling for Ukrainians. Just talk us through what people are telling you.
Well, lots of people here incredibly upset. Presumably, we've got, dozens, scores of families who are now going to be homeless, at least temporarily, just in this neighbourhood. I saw one man emerging, an elderly gentleman, completely bloodied and bandaged, another elderly woman just sobbing in the park behind where we are at the moment. The lady I spoke to from the east earlier, I said to her, you know, does she think President Zelensky should give up Ukrainian territory in the east in order to secure a peace deal, Ukrainian territory that is her homeland, and she was absolutely adamant. She said, no, he should not. Ukraine's territorial integrity should not be up for discussion. So I think, the mood is one of continued resilience.